French version somehow. Nouveau projet, new project. Actually, in the document, I've given the names of the various options, buttons, menus in English and in parentheses in French, just in case you happen to download or have downloaded the French version. Okay? And it's also a good exercise for you, since you're supposed to learn French. So this is what it looks like. What I like to do first, as with all other applications, is go to the program settings. So if you click on File and go to Options, okay, you're going to get a number of things. And if you don't mind, I'm going to sit down for this exercise. Under General, select Date Format. Okay, so this is where you can choose an American style format, or you can display the time as well as the date. I prefer to display just the date, like the start date, start time. It's obvious that every day starts at the same official time. Okay, so I prefer to keep my columns as narrow as possible, so I skip the hours. What else on this one? Nothing. Display, which is affichage in French. Affichage. This is where you can set the appropriate currency. I've chosen euros. If you choose, choose euros, because I want to check that your total budget is less than 20,000, and I don't want to have to convert from dollars to euros. Although these days the currencies are pretty close, and you can show where you should put the symbol, the number of decimals, etc. Okay. Under schedule, which is échéancier in French. Okay.
Weeks, months, and 1
Yeah,
year.
yeah. This new version in French is adapted to French labor law, which is 7 hours per day. Okay. So I'm going to change it to 8. I'm not sure that's going to work actually. 40, 20 days maybe. If you have this later version in French and it's 7 hours, don't worry. I think in the English version it's 8 hours. At least with the one I have on my desktop, which is 2010, not 2013. Because I have Windows XP, it's 8 hours. So I'm not sure this will take 9 and 9, 18 minus 1. Yeah, that should be 8 hours. 17 plus an hour for lunch. The assumption is an hour for lunch. Okay, and then what else? New tasks created. Where is that? In French it's nouvelle tâche créée. Can you spot that? Ah, here. New task created, I want them to be scheduled automatically. Okay. You'll have the choice, as you will see, for any given task to have them scheduled in American English, automatically or manually. If you choose manually, you're going to have to enter the start date. Okay. Automatically, depending on what you enter in the predecessors column and the duration you enter, the start and end date will be calculated automatically. So my recommendation is automatically here. You can change this in the plan itself. These are global settings for the project. Oh yeah, the other thing, nouvelle tâche. Right, there's something here. Les nouvelles tâches planifiées ont une durée estimée. In English it's new tasks have an estimated duration. I generally uncheck this because to me it's obvious that the duration of tasks in a plan are estimates because it's a plan. Okay. If you leave this checked, you're going to have a question mark after each of your durations and start dates and end dates, which I find annoying. Okay, so I uncheck that. And then display work in, I choose days, durations in days, and workload in days. It should be person days, but to keep things simple, the software uses the term days. Okay, and then that's okay for that. Then advanced options, option avancée. The standard what they call the rates, that is the unit cost. I'm going to enter, so this is French, so it should be J, jour, D in English for day instead of H for hours. We'll see if this works. Okay, so that's about it. Okay, to validate all the changes you've made. Okay, now we can get started. So at the top left, so here's the, you've seen this in previous screenshots during the previous sessions. So what we have here are a number of default columns, okay, which go names of resources, predecessors, start, end, duration. So we start with the name of the task. So at the top level, as you know, I like to show the project. And in your plan, the first line should be Project Ganaxa. Okay. And then underneath Project Ganaxa, at lower levels, we'll have the work packages and the tasks. So that's that. So as soon as I enter a line, it appears here in the diagram view as of today's date, the Tuesday, 28th, and the default duration is 1 day. Okay? And so the start is today and the end tomorrow. So worry about changing that later. For the time being, we're going to list work packages and tasks. So to keep it simple, I'm going to have work package 1. I'm going to have task 1.1, task 1.2, this doesn't work anymore, excuse me, this happens all the time, for some reason. Okay, I'm going to have WP2, or maybe it's the software that's slow. Task 2.1, task 2.2, task 2.3, then I have WP3, then I have, what will I have? Closure, and project management. Okay? So next thing to do is to create a hierarchy. At the top level there's a project. At the lowest level we have tasks. So I'm going to select the 2 tasks under WP1 and indent them. So can you see up there the right arrow? I click on it and the tasks under WP1 have been indented to show that they are subordinate tasks. So I'm going to do the same for these. Okay. And now each of the WPs also needs to be indented because it's at level 2 underneath the project level. Okay, and these are 3 WPs without any subordinate task. I can select them simultaneously and indent them. Okay, so I have my levels here. The top is the project, which includes WP, which has 2 subordinate tasks, WP2 with 3 subordinate tasks, and then 3 what look like tasks, but they're actually work packages because they don't have anything beneath them. Okay, and they're at level 2. Now you can do the rest in any order, but what I want to do is do the sequencing first. Okay, so you can move columns round. Oh, by the way, you can insert a task. If you want to insert a task above WP2, select the line, right click, and select insert a task. Okay, so I could have T1.3. Okay, but I don't want it, so this is also how you delete a task. You right click and you insert or delete. Okay. Now, columns, you can move them. I want my predecessors to be here. So you see the line that appears, the grey line. When it's to the right of the column, which is supposed to be just before this one, you release the mouse button, and here we have predecessors. Remember, predecessor information should be entered at the lowest level of the hierarchy, but you don't need it for the first task because by definition it's the first task of the first work package of the project, so it has no predecessor. So the first predecessor information is for task 1.2 on line 4, and let's assume that its predecessor is the task on line 3. Okay? Tasks 2.1 and 2.2 can begin at the same time as soon as task 1.2 has been completed. So you can either use 4 as a predecessor or 2, because task 1.2 is the last task in the chronology of tasks under work package 1. Using task 1, the end of task 1.2 as a predecessor is the same as using the work package as a predecessor. So you can either enter 4 here, so, or 4 here, okay, that one. So you see these tasks have now been given a constraint. They both begin once this has begun. Okay. Now if instead of entering 4 you had entered 2, you would have the same scheduling, but the arrows will just appear different. You see the arrow starts at the end of the work package instead of at the end of the final task of the work package. And 2.3 should be finished, should start only when the previous 2 tasks in the work package have been finished. So it has 2 predecessors. That the task on line 6, the task on line 7, separated by a semicolon. 6, semicolon 7. Okay? And you see the double arrows there, from here to here. Okay? The bar here appears longer than 1 day, although all durations are still 1 day at the lowest level. This one extends over the weekend. Okay? And because the weekends are not counted, they are not working days, this is the day where that task will be performed. Okay? So beware of weekends when you look at durations. Okay, WB3, let's assume it's 5 as a predecessor, 9. I'm keeping things simple here, it's just a quick demo. And then project management, there are several possibilities. You can say that, for example, the PM is going to be involved in task 1.1 and task 1.2. That's something to do with agreeing on design, etc. So you can either start project management at the end of work package 2, okay, and then you can say that you're going to have to fix a duration. Okay, for the moment, let's do that. Or as you can say that you're not going to assign any predecessor yet because you want the project management task to extend for the whole duration of the project. Okay, we'll return to that later. Okay, the next thing to do is to you can assign durations or resources. In my document, I suggest going to resources first. So, resources, where are they? Non-ressources, resource names actually, in Microsoft Project or Project Libre. You can widen the column as you can do in Excel. Okay. Resources to be assigned at the lowest level of the hierarchy, as for any other information, predecessors, duration, etc. So you can either enter them, the names, separated by semicolons, or if you're using Microsoft Project, you can first enter them in the resource sheet. So in the display menu, affichage in French, you have resource sheet, tableau de ressources, where you enter the names. So let's say there's a PM, there's resource 1, resource 2, sorry, resource 3. That's all, just to keep it simple. There we are. It's work, type of work, and here's my standard rate. Sorry. Where are we? I'm moving this here. Okay, by default it's an amount per day. So let's sorry.
So how did you get into this?
Pardon? You go to the display menu, okay, and under display, okay, can you see my, at the top here? Instead of affichage, you should have display, and here you have resource usage, resource sheet.
Okay.
Have you found that?
Yes.
Okay. And so you have this sort of table or spreadsheet.
Excuse me, but for the project link,
Yes,
this
it's the same principle.
yeah, it's
Ressources. No, that's you. No ressource. That's yes. Yeah. Yeah. Name, and then you have. Yeah. You have to move this. Where is it? Cost. Standard rate. Standard rate. Yeah, you move that. Select it and move it to the left.
Okay, let's say 300. 320. Okay, you can enter the cost information later, but while we're at it, and 330. These are just assumptions. So to keep it simple, so of course for Ganaxa you're going to have to enter the CO, PM, TC, TJ, OC, and DD. Okay? And some of them, the owner and the group of OC, will have a zero standard cost, because the assumption is that you're not counting their cost. Okay? Once you've done that, by the way, don't forget to save your work. I'll save it here, and I'll call it MPP demo. Okay, and now once you've done that, return with the top here to Gantt chart. And now, when you do this, with Microsoft Project, not with Project Leap, where you have to do manual entry, with MS Project at least 2013, but I also think 2010. Here's your list of resources, so all you need to do is select. Okay. For example. Okay, task 2.1, we have R1, okay, and because they're being run in parallel, of course you shouldn't have the same resources. Okay. It's because you have different resources that you can do things in parallel. And task 3, all three need to work together for some reason. WP3, let's say you have R2, R1, and then closure, everyone's going to be involved. And project management, of course, the PM. Okay. Notice on the right here that the names of the resources have appeared, and because you've kept them nice and short, it's legible. If you'd written project manager or resource number 1 or senior developer number 1, it would be impossible to read. Okay. Now we're going to do the durations. So for each, at the lowest level of the hierarchy, you can enter or leave the standard 1 day. So let's assume this is 1 day. So you can either change the number here to 3, or you can use the arrows, 3 days. You can also change, if some task lasts only 2 hours, you can write 2 hours. Or you can write 0 point something days, whatever. Okay? And here I get a little message saying, you've changed the duration. Should I increase the workload and keep the duration that I've entered? And that's indeed what I want to do. So my workload is going to increase. And by the way, this is a good opportunity to click on add a new column, and I'm going to select Travail in French, work in English, to check that the workload calculation is correct. Here I have a 1 day task in terms of duration with 2 people involved, and so the workload is 2 person days. Here a 3 day task in terms of duration, but with 3 people, so that's a 9 person day workload. Okay? 2, let's say it's 3 days, 4 days, this is 5. Okay. Since I'm setting the duration, I want to keep the duration as I set it and therefore increase the workload. But you could choose otherwise if you want. WP3 is 1 day, closure is 1 day. Now project management, so oh, by the way, something we forgot to do, but that's later is set the project start date, which I mentioned at the beginning in my paper. But as you'll see, we can change it later. Project management. So the total duration here, if you look at the diagram. So it's 12 days, which is actually 2 weeks and 2 days because of the 2 weekends. Okay? Oh. Okay, 4 days the first week, 5 days, that's 9, and 4 days, and 5 days the final week, so that's 10, and why does it show 14? Why is it only 14 days? Why is it 12 days and not 14? 5. One, two, three, 4. It should be 14. And don't understand why it's 4 days. 3, 2, 2, 6, 7. Do you understand?
No.
Maybe because of the. Okay. One of those strange things. Maybe I'll find an explanation. Anyhow.
Sir, the duration 12 days. The first.
Yes.
This is a total of. The total of the days under it. No.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
4 and 6 are 10. Because these are successive, as you can see. Here we have 1 day, followed by 3 days. Okay, that's when it starts. 1, 2, 3. So that's 4 days indeed. But 1, 2, 3. Why does it extend till the Monday? This, I think, probably has something to do with the fact that I changed the default number of hours from 7 to 8, I believe. Let's go back to 7 and to 35. Why 32? Should be 35. Weird. 1371. Wow.
Okay, but usually where do we have the total number of days? In order to get the total number of days.
Well, the total number of days can be the sum of the work packages or not, because you may have some work being done in parallel. Okay, but in this case, indeed, you have parallelism within work package 2, but W2 follows W1, WP3 follows WP2, so it should be the sum of what you have here. Let me return to my options because I prefer to have integer numbers 8 and 40. So, okay. Yeah, I don't understand why it shows 12 as opposed to 14. There's some mystery. Now, concerning project management, what you can do here is you can select the task, say that it's planned manually, scheduled manually, okay, and that's what this little icon here shows, manual, and here you're going to set your duration for, because you're involved in WP1, what you can do is add 3 here as a predecessor. So it's you're going to start on the 29th, the last hour of the 7-day. And you're going to work for, let's say, 8 days. The project management is going to be spread over 8 days. Okay? Maybe you could make it. Sorry. This is what I wanted to make it 10. Okay? So what I've shown here, I've adjusted the PM task manually to make it coincide the beginning with the end of work package 1 and the end with the beginning of the closure. Okay. You could also, as I showed I think in Exone, in the Exone task, you can use an FF relationship with closure, but you should keep it simple. The other way of doing this is you have an overall PM task of 12 days. Okay. Starting, sorry. Automatically. So starting on day 1, ending on the final day, with a duration of 12. But in that case, you're going to have an overload on some of the days. So if you look at resource usage, utilisation des ressources, you see the PM is flagged in red. There are some days where he's working up to 175% of his time. So that's no good. Okay? So this is where the reduction factor comes in. Okay, in square brackets, and what it says here is keep the same workload or modify the duration. No, I want to keep the duration and I'm going to modify the workload. I'm stating that because I have my PM down here in the background, any other task that the PM is involved in, I have to reduce his or her percentage assigned to that particular task by means of this notation in square brackets with a percentage. And of course, I need to do the same here. Okay? So, let's make this narrower. Okay, so you see the workload now. Project management, 50% of the PM for a duration of 10 days, 12 days, with 6 person days work. And now, because I've introduced these constraints, by means of the percentage, if I look at resource usage, the PM is busy 0.88 days per day. This is because of the difference between 8 hours per day and 7 hours per day. Don't worry about that. I prefer the standard 8 hours per day. Now the final thing is cost, okay, in French coût, down here, cost, and there it is calculated automatically. Okay. Not the final thing. Suppose I want to start the project not today, but let's say on, maybe not May the 1st, but May the 4th. Under project, go to select project information and change the start date to, for example, May the 4th. Okay? So now my schedule has been updated, taking into account the new start date, which I entered, so it's May the 4th, and it finishes on, so I don't know why it's suddenly 15 days here, but for some reason. Probably because of the public holidays in France. Let's say it starts on June the 1st. Still 15 days for some reason. Although this should be, I wanted to 18th, 19th, 22nd. Days and yeah, for some reason it's 15 days now. I don't know what we did. Maybe one of the changes I did, I changed the duration instead of the workload for some reason. Okay, but you get the principle. Okay, is that clear? That's all I wanted to show you. Follow the document. It's under miscellaneous documents on the web page. It's called Instructions, Basic Instructions for Using Microsoft Project 2013. Okay, and play around with it. Once you've succeeded in installing, with the help of your classmates, Microsoft Project or Project Lead, or if all else fails, you'll have to use Excel. Okay. Any questions?
So, for duration, here it's 15 days, but in our case it will be 28 days, right?
Pardon?
The DURE, D-U-R-E.
Yeah, duration.
In our case it would be 28 days, right?
Yeah.
No, maximum it should be.
4 weeks, 7 for the 28.
Yeah, let's say the final date should be at the latest the end of June. June the 30th. Yeah.
Means the 28 working days, I meant.
No, it's less than 28. 1 month is 22 on average.
Okay.
You'll have to look in particular June, 30 days. Look at the number of weekends. Okay, but the main thing, the constraint I've given you is if you start on June the 1st, the finish date should be a date in June, maximum the 30th of June. If it's July, you're out. Project rejected, your plan's rejected, and you're fired. Okay? So any duration between, so whatever the number of days in June is, working days, is probably like 20, 21 or 22, I'm not sure. The main thing is the project needs to be completed, in theory, in the plan, before the 1st of July. Okay, that's the constraint. So, I suggest you play around a little with Microsoft Project. You can plan an event, a dinner with your friends on your next holidays, whatever. Or go straight into the assignment. Okay. Read the instructions carefully and make notes of the various constraints and assumptions, which is only part of all the information I gave you. There's a lot of information. You don't need all of it for the assignment, but you need to make sure that all the relevant information that you take it into account.